Well, hello, school counselors and school counselors to be. Thank you guys so much for coming to my channel, The Inspiring School Counselor. And today, as you guys can already tell from the title down below, we're going to be getting into another Talk It Out week review, where I want to be sharing with you guys the ins and outs of my week, from 504s to small groups, individual counseling, lessons that I do with students. And so I'm excited to be getting into this with you guys. Hopefully you guys are excited too. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. All right, let's get into it. All right, you guys. So first of all, let's talk about 504s. So at the beginning of the year is usually when you start setting up your annual 504 meetings, because you have students that had 504s last year and they have transitioned to another class, another grade level, they have another teacher. And so you're going to have your annual 504s so that you can help the new teacher know just some different things, what to expect with the student and what accommodations they need to put in place for that student. Also, it's a great time to be able to look over the accommodations that the student had for last year, because if it is that you need to change any or maybe add anything, it's the perfect time. I did have parents that reached out to me that wanted me to set up a 504 eligibility meeting. Basically, it's when the parent comes in and they are requesting for their child to have a 504, and we just talk about what are some things that's going on that they feel like their child needs a 504. And once we have that meeting and we talk about everything that is going on, then we decide whether or not that 504 is needed to put in place for that student. And as you guys know, I am all about being transparent with you guys and letting you all know some of my mistakes so that you won't have to do the same thing that I did. When I was setting up my eligibility meeting, one of the parents that I was setting it up for was a foster parent. And let me tell you guys, these are things that they don't talk to you about in college. I remember being in class and talking about 504s and IEPs, but we really did not go in depth with the ins and outs of 504s, what that paperwork looks like, the different laws. We did like a general overview of it. Well, I actually had a situation where the foster parent was seeking out a 504 on behalf of their student or their child. And so I did not know that you needed to get a surrogate because the foster parent, the child wasn't in the foster parent's home for more than a year. I didn't know to even ask for that. I didn't know anything about that. And so when we had everybody in the room, it actually just came out. I believe it was someone from maybe the child's case manager was there, and they may have mentioned the surrogate. And so when I was in there, it was like, oh, well, we can't have the meeting unless we have a surrogate because this foster parent has not had this child for over a year. And so it was just like, oh, craziness. At that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm messing up. And you guys know how that feeling is, especially when you feel like you have everything in line and you have your ducks in a row, and then all of a sudden like a wrench is thrown in it, and it feels like so horrible because for one, you have your principal in there, you have the parent in there or the foster parent in there, you have the case manager, the DCS case manager on the phone, you also have the teacher in there. And at the time when I had this meeting, it was also the teacher's student, I think it was a student teacher in there as well. And so it was just like, oh my gosh, like I was just like, okay. So after that, I actually ended up having to reschedule that meeting so that I can find a surrogate that will be able to sit in. Well, everything worked out to where I was able to find a surrogate, and so I have a meeting that's set in September to have this meeting, and everybody's going to be in place, and all of my ducks are going to be in a row. So, but those are things like that which I wish that they spent more time on when I was in graduate school, because maybe some things like that would have been avoided. But a lot of this stuff you do have to learn on the job. So I was actually called to another school because there was a student that was there dealing with suicidal ideation and behavior, and the school counselor that was there, she was new and she didn't really know how to do that suicidal paperwork. And so they had called me to kind of assist that situation And when I got in the room, the student was crying, wanting their mom, and just, really just wasn't going to calm down. But I thank God, y'all, let me tell you, when I say, when you come against a situation you don't know how to handle, pray. Like, that's what I did. I was like, okay, God, this student does not know me, and I don't know how they're going to take to me, trying to work with them. So I just prayed, because I was just like, you know what, this is beyond me. So I began to just talk to that student. I began to let that student know it's okay that they miss their mom, and it's okay that they want to see their mom. And I began to just kind of counsel that student in such a way to where we actually began to write a note to mom. And at first the student was kind of just like, I don't know if I want to do that, but I went ahead, I got the paper, I got the crayons, and this student was actually in 3rd grade. So I got the paper, I got the crayons, and I began to say, okay, tell me everything mama likes. And at first the student was just like, I don't know. So I just began to still be like, okay, well, there's a mother like flowers, there's a mother like this, there's a mother like that. And so finally the student began to engage with me and began to just tell me some things that the mother liked. And so we ended up, I drew the picture. I actually asked that student what it was that they wanted to tell their mom, and we walked through that process. Let me tell you guys, when I tell you that student calmed down, that situation ended up being resolved, and we were able to go through the process of doing the suicidal paperwork. So I was just really grateful and honored that they wanted to call me to be a part of that process, and it was just a really good experience. I think even the more for the school counselor and for the principal, I was able to work with them, and I was able to shed some light on how to handle the situation, and it just worked out really well. So one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that I did while I was there, and that was making sure that I did not overstep my boundary. So there was times where the principal and the school counselor would be talking. I didn't just make my way over there to be a part of that conversation. I let them talk until they invited me over. Or there was times where maybe I was sitting down with the student and maybe the school counselor was there as well. I wanted to make sure that I stepped back and gave the school counselor an opportunity to be a part of that process as well. Because at the end of the day, I am not the school counselor at that school, and I don't work with those students. With that being said, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't hogging that student all to myself, and I only wanted to work with a student. That, first of all, that shouldn't be the attitude that you have anyway as a school counselor. You should be open to all the help that you can get, but I really wanted to make sure that I gave opportunity and I kind of stepped back a little bit so that school counselor and even the principal can be a part of that process as well. And I also love where even they gave me an opportunity to have that moment with that student, so that that student can get used to me. And I just love how all of us came together and we were able to do that and help that student. Some more things I was able to do this week was just give out some items to students that were in need. One student, their flip-flops had broke, and so they needed new shoes, so I was able to kind of just see if I had any shoes for them. Unfortunately, I didn't have any shoes in their size, so they ended up having to go to another teacher in the school that also keeps clothes. I did my lessons this week with my 2nd grade students, and we did SMART goals. That went really well. I really enjoyed that lesson with them, and I know that they enjoyed it too. Another thing that I had this week was a safety meeting. As you guys know, I talked to you guys about what took place at another school where there was a threat and I had to go there. Well, we actually ended up having a safety meeting to go over the protocols with our faculty and staff if something like that ever was to ever happen at my school. And so that was a good process, and we were actually going over roles. And then we also had a faculty meeting, and we were able to go over all of those safety procedures with our faculty and staff. So you guys, it was a full week, and I'm pretty sure that's not all that I had to do this week. Of course, I had my individual counseling. Oh, and I actually had to work with one student that, once again, same student that was yelling in class. I came up with some rewards for them, and it seemed like it wasn't working. So we are just in the process of trying to reach parents to see about them coming in so that we can come up with something for that student. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Talk It Out week review. I thank you guys so much for your time. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. All right, I'll see you guys next time.